Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live with Beyond Pulse. I'm Ashley Lair, and I am the Operations Manager for US Club Soccer. We're going to start today with the first of 4 episodes of this series, and it's going to focus on speed training. So welcome to Michael Supp. He's going to introduce Beyond Pulse. Michael, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Hi, everyone. Just very quickly, I guess, before we go into today's session, just to quickly reintroduce myself. My role for Beyond Pulse is predominantly on the education and research component of what we're trying to do, and that is bringing wearable smart technology to youth sports and youth soccer here in the US initially. And we really want to simplify that entire process, and that's exactly what we've done. But a huge focus for us and our identity and who we are is to bring a level of education to an environment that's never typically had access to this type of technology before. And so with that, we're very lucky to have one of our experts is here with us today, Johnny Wilson. Johnny's over in the UK right now, so I'm going to pass over to Johnny to quickly introduce himself, and then we'll get rolling with today's topic.
Okay, hi guys. Johnny Wilson here. I've got a background in sports science and physiotherapy. Headed up sports science and medicine departments at Notts County, Scunthorpe, and more recently Chesterfield FC over the last 10 years. I'm an associate lecturer at the University of Nottingham for their undergrad courses and master's courses in physiotherapy, sports therapy, and sport and exercise medicine. Been lucky enough to speak at some international conventions around the world. Was very humbled to speak at Barcelona, Liverpool Football Club, as many others, and I'm taking up a new chapter in my career, and very excited to be working on the performance metrics for Beyond Pulse with their wearable technology on metrics such as heart rate response, distance, and high-speed running.
Thank you, Johnny. So rather than delving straight into speed training and youth soccer players, can you tell us a little bit about Beyond Pulse and how the philosophy behind Beyond Pulse and what Beyond Pulse is and how it can really help coaches and soccer players?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, very briefly, it's more than just about developing athletic qualities in children. It puts the well-being of the child firmly at the forefront. We're aiming to create a positive environment for children and coaches to thrive and flourish. And I guess more so than anything else, it's to ensure that each and every practice session from the age of 5 to 18 is fun, engaging, and physically and mentally demanding.
Great. And how important, from your experience, your expertise, how important is it to develop speed in youth players?
Yeah, speed is an essential component of soccer, and given its importance when it comes to meaningful passage of play, such as ball-winning possession or scoring goals or defending opportunities for goals, it's a key vital ingredient. And according to the American College of Sports Medicine, they advocate that we can safely introduce speed training as early as 5 years of age, as long as the child is emotional intelligent, so they're able to comprehend what you're asking of them, so that it's a safe environment.
And is there such thing as a speed gene, where you either have it or you don't?
Yeah, that's a very polarizing debate there. So the notion that someone is born fast or slow is probably fundamentally flawed, and that type of mindset caters for only for nature, so that we're born in a certain way and this cannot be changed, and excludes the huge potential that nurture or deliberate practice can provide us with. So while it's true to say that we all have genetic performance thresholds, the idea that there's a unique or a single gene that's responsible for speed or athlete or an athlete gene or a performance gene or even a set of genes exists is a myth. And probably a better viewpoint on this would be that it's the interaction between nature, so how you are born what you were born, and nurture, so deliberate outcomes, so maybe practice, which will dictate the process by which we can realize our genetic potential. So looking at training and nurture in a way to provide the best for our children.
Okay. And you mentioned these windows of accelerated trainability. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, there are 3 windows of accelerated trainability, going from the age of 5 to 18. Given the nature and the length of this webinar, it's going to be impossible to go through all 3 phases. So what we'll be able to do possibly is give a landscape view of the first 2 stages, which are the sampling years between 5 and 10, and the specialization years, which will occur between 10 and 15. The third period is known as the investment years, but I highly doubt we'll get a chance to look at that today. If we're to look at the sampling years, which occur between 5 and 10 years of age, this is a phase which really needs to always be characterized by fun. And through fun and enjoyment, we're trying to develop the ABCs of athleticism. So A, agility, B, balance, C, coordination, and speed. And the sub-quality of speed that we're really looking to develop in this age group is agility. So agility is basically the ability to stop, start, change direction under control. Looking at agility, one of the most important aspects of agility is when you look at stride characteristics. And what I mean by stride characteristics is the frequency, so the amount of time that they will, in a particular period, they will hit the ground, so the number of times they do that, and stride length. So for this age group, we mainly focus on stride frequency. And so we're looking at short ground contact times here. So we're looking at kids to kind of be able to kind of fit. We talk to coaches about telling the children to imagine that the ground feels like hot coals, and that they need to spend as little time in the ground as possible so that they don't burn their feet. So we're asking them to strike the ground with intent. So we're asking them to impart as much force as they can onto the ground, and that will help them increase their stride frequency and their agility. I guess the other aspect to agility is that during soccer games or during practice games, children are presented with a number of complex cognitive scenarios. So they've got that require them to think quickly and react quickly to the environment. So integral to agility training at this age group is the use of games which require the child to think fast as well. So it's almost like think fast, move fast. So we're looking at that connection between the mind and body. Therefore, I guess you could look at agility as that connection between the mind and body with regards to think fast, move fast. Moving on from there, really, if we're looking at activities that can help improve that, you're looking at games and practice games, really. So I know Michael was going to speak a little bit about fun games, which have got a huge focus on agility with regards to how we would introduce it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Johnny. So yeah, I guess in addition to a lot of the characteristics that Johnny was talking about, the challenge for us as coaches is, okay, so what does that look like? And that's something that really is a focus for us at Beyond Pulse. When you consider the demands for these sampling years, this first sort of window of trainability, one of the best games that you could possibly do with kids is tag games. When you consider a game of tag, you've got everything in there, every type of movement. Kids are constantly they're active first of all, but they're changing direction. They're going through different speeds. They're twisting, turning, chopping, cutting, accelerating, decelerating, and it's all in a sort of game that kids quite simply love to play, and we have really for decades. So we really want to put the focus back on, okay, as coaches, how do we then create these types of activities in a real simple way that can be implemented in our training sessions right now? It's not as though this is something that needs to be organized in an entirely complex manner. This is something you can do as part of a warm-up for your training sessions. Very, very easy to do, and again, kids enjoy it. But we have a short video to play that's just going to quickly show some of those activities that Johnny was talking about earlier as well.
So guys, just while you're watching this video, I'll talk a little bit about exercise prescription in regards to this age group. So again, as Michael was saying, we can we can carry these exercises out as part of the warm-up or part of the practice session itself or part of the cool down. We can adjust the complexity of the exercise depending upon the child's ability. So if they're able to understand what's being asked of them, if it's too simple, we can make it more complex. If it's too complex, then we can make it more simple. There's very little periodization needed in this phase, but certainly all programs should be structured and monitored. And agility tasks should really last no longer than or between 5 to 10 seconds to ensure high quality repetitions as the focus on building that mind-body connection, as we said, rather than an aerobic or anaerobic base.
Thank you, Michael and Johnny. This is all really great information. Can you explain a little bit about how Beyond Pulse fits into this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So Beyond Pulse, again, our focus is very much on trying to simplify the information that we give, again, because we want to make it accessible. So, we measure 4 metrics. Those are active participation, heart rate, distance, and speed. But really, for these sort of sampling years, this age group, our focus is on active participation. Basically, with that, what we mean is we're able to measure the activity that occurs in a particular session. And we do that by measuring the movement by way of energy expenditure for every single kid that's playing and wearing a belt. And we can show that as an individual, and we can show it as the team average, which for us is such a huge focus. So basically what any coach would be able to see is the amount of time that kids spend in low, moderate, and vigorous physical activity. And our active participation percentage is essentially made up of the moderate and vigorous time spent in those two zones. And that's really the area that we want coaches to focus on in terms of types of activities, their own coaching delivery, the different ways in which we deliver and organize these activities, is to have a focus on keeping kids in these zones, because fundamentally that's what children need at these ages.
So this is all regarding the younger ages, 5 to 11. Can you talk a little bit more about the next phase?
Absolutely. So the next phase is the specialization phase, or specialization years, which occur between 10 to 16 years of age. It's a key period as it marks the onset of strength and power development in children, mainly due to the huge physiological changes in the musculoskeletal and neuromuscular systems, mainly attributed to maturation influences. So you've got a rise in growth hormone levels, which are associated with puberty. So the focus of speed training around this age group then would be around the strength intervention. So we're going to capitalize on that naturally occurring increase in growth hormones. Regards to boys and girls, they generally follow comparable rates of development in growth and maturation, and which is similar as well for strength, power, speed, aerobic endurance, and neuromuscular control. So from a practical point of view, from a training perspective, from a practice perspective, boys and girls can follow similar training programs during this window of trainability. While in the sampling years we were focusing more on stride frequency through neural intervention, we can now start developing stride length characteristics. So that's the distance between toe off to touchdown. Fairly critical as well to develop this characteristic, especially in young soccer players, because as they go on later in their careers, they can utilize their stride frequency for agility-based activities, such as when they're evading an opponent, and then they can utilize their stride length for longer linear-based activities, maybe such as a counter-attack over 40 meters. So how do you do that? Well, one of the easiest and most practical ways of doing that is through plyometrics. So we incorporate plyometrics in a twofold way with our kids. So one is where we use low threshold plyometrics. So these are sub-maximal efforts, and that coincides with the recommendations of FIFA 11+. So here we're focusing on how they land from a jump or a hop. So we want them to land with good control. By doing that, it helps reduce the incidence of non-contact soft tissue injuries, particularly ACL sprains, which are quite common in girls around this age. So during this period, the strength profile of a child will develop rapidly, and as a result, they'll naturally get a positive influence on maximal speed. But research would say that we shouldn't rely on growth and maturation solely to improve these types of qualities. So looking at the research, it's quite evident that even modest improvements in strength and power will give us significant improvements in maximum velocity, acceleration, jumping height. So it's a very worthwhile activity to intervene with. I won't go into the mechanisms of how they work through the stretch shortening cycle because we're tight on time here. But if you look at some eminent research coming from Spain and from one of the professional football clubs over there, they've shown by incorporating simple jumping activities at the end of the warm-up twice weekly over a period of 9 weeks, so 18 sessions, they've shown significant increases in jump height, acceleration speed over 5 meters, maximum speed over 20 meters, increases in agility performance without the ball, and increase in maximum ball striking ability as well. So they were doing about 6 minutes, 4 to 6 minutes at the end of the warm-up twice a week for 9 weeks, and they showed quite good results. So as well as jumping, one of the best ways to get fast is by actually running fast. So it's important that we expose the kids throughout their period with us to running fast, and this can be looking at acceleration, it can be looking at maximum velocity, but it comes under the aspect of motor unit recruitment. Now, I won't go in depth into this, but basically we've got fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers, and they've got some motor units that attach onto them, and the smaller guys, they're responsible for walking and jogging, so non-explosive activities. And then you've got these bigger fast twitch muscle fibers, and they've got these big motor units, and they need to be recruited too. So by training explosively and training fast, we're recruiting these guys, and if we don't recruit those motor units, then they're going to be detrained. So it's important to do that. Some of the ways we can do it, so we can improve acceleration performance by simply getting our players to accelerate out over 5 to 10 meters, maybe 5 times at the end of the warm-up. We can improve maximum velocity by doing run-outs over 20 to 30 meters, where they increase their pace over the first 5-10 meters, working on their acceleration, then run as fast as they can for 20 meters, 15 to 20 meters, and then they're working on their maximum velocity. We can put in the 505 test or an exercise, and that helps with acceleration, deceleration, and changes of direction ability. So there's a lot we can do, and we can also put in some combined exercises. So we might get them to accelerate out for 5 meters, and then with the ball zigzagging around 4 cones, and then strike the ball as hard as they possibly can at a target. So simple things that we can do at the start of the practice session, or during the practice session, or at the end of the practice session, to help improve the speed qualities in this age group.
And I think we have a video to quickly demonstrate some of those movements as well. So let's play that quickly.
So while the video is going on, guys, I'm just going to talk through a little bit of this and with regards to exercise prescription. So with exercise prescription for these guys, it's probably better to underestimate their physical capabilities and gradually increase the volume and intensity of the intervention, rather than to overestimate and potentially increase the risk of injury. So a sensible starting point, if it's the first session for your players, might be one set of 6 to 10 repetitions of maybe a horizontal jump, and the other lad jumping forward or jumping up twice a week, and then to just build that up gradually. It's also worth noting that during periods of rapid growth, so peak high velocity, it's a good idea to reduce the volume and intensity training sessions so that we reduce the risk of growth-related injuries, such as Osgood Schlatters or Severs or Cindy Larson. So it's supposed to appropriately design programs of moderate to high level intensity, which flex around the maturation status of the child. All the time keeping in technical competency can really help improve their athletic physical profile. And the practice to competition ratio that's recommended here is 60% practice to 40% competition and competition specific practice.
Thanks, Johnny and Michael. So you talked a little bit about multi-movement, acceleration, how to make your players faster. Now, where does Beyond Pulse fit in with that?
Yeah, again, very simply. So in these sort of years, the specialization years, we typically look a little bit more now on the heart rate and then distance and then speed as well. Active participation is still fundamental to us, and it should be from sampling years, specialization years, and you'd hope a little bit in terms of the investment years too. But now we can start to look a little bit more at the other metrics. And so more specifically to what we're talking about today, every single coach, again, every single player, after a session with Beyond Pulse, you'll be able to see the total distance that players have run, the team as an average, individual players as well. And then within that, you can see the different speed zones and the amount of time and meters that players spent in those speed zones. So from low, medium, high, and then maximal speeds. And then again, you also have the ability to see a little bit more in that high speed running, which we have as 80 to 100% of a player's maximum, how much time and distance they spent in those zones as well. So any coach can see that from our dashboard using notes. And again, that can be seen on a phone, on a tablet, on a laptop, PC, whatever. And that's kind of what we show. In regards to all of this, we have a Learn blog, a learning community on our website, and we'll share the links with everybody. On there will be a specific blog that's dedicated to today's session. So we'll be able to go into a little bit more depth and detail. We'll have a downloadable PDF for everyone that tuned in today to go and download some more information on some of the content that Johnny was covering. Within that, we have our development plan that kind of synthesizes a lot of these characteristics for people to be able to see, and obviously a little bit more information on everything that we do. So we'll be sharing all that with everybody after today's webinar.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Johnny and Michael. This was great information. Everyone who tuned in, we will have 3 more webinars expanding on some of the ideas that were talked about today. So stay tuned to the times for those Facebook Lives. And thanks for tuning in today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.